Don't let the ghosts and the ghouls disturb you.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Josh from Nightmare on Woodsboro Lake. Today I am joined by some extremely killer guests. I have Ken and Ashley here from Sledgehammer Horror. How are we doing, my friends?
We're good. How are you?
So honored to
Good.
be here, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, heck yeah. It's been a nice day. It's finally starting to feel like fall. Like
Mm.
or like summer ran everything ran late this year. Like spring ran a little bit longer and summer kind of like dragged out to like just this last week. So I was like, God, I'm not getting like the full fall experience that I wanted, like usual, but
Right.
I'll take it.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah. So for the viewers who might not know you, which I feel like everybody does, you guys are like huge. I feel like I love your my first horror film segment. I was lucky to be asked on. I was so glad that I could join you for that. Um,
Mhm.
as along with all your other spectacular videos and like top movies and like
Mhm.
didn't see that coming and all that. But for those who don't know, you can we fill in the viewers a little bit about you guys?
Yeah, so I do a segment on my own called My First Horror Movie where I bring guests on and talk to them about the first horror movie they watched, how it affected them, how it got them started in the horror genre, what it means to them today. Um, and every week we do a live.
Mhm.
Usually it's a top 10 or a franchise ranking. And then Ashley has a couple segments that she writes.
Yeah, so we do I didn't see that coming, which is we take a film with a twist and talk about how the twist ending affected us. And then we have a versus where we take an original versus a remake and talk about things we like from both of them, and then we usually rank which one we like more. So yeah.
Awesome. Heck yeah. I'll be leaving the links below to all their content for sure. You guys definitely should go give them a watch. It's a hell of a time. So what got you guys started in horror?
I was lucky. My parents owned a video store growing up and had a little mom and pop video store. And my grandma got tired of watching He-Man and the Masters of the Universe and Thundercats. So she let me go in the horror section and pick out a movie. And I picked out House from 1986. I love the cover with the hand hitting the doorbell. And I was in love, man. Like to this day, that's still my favorite horror movie of all time. It's so perfect to me. And together we've been together 17 years now.
Mhm. Something
Wow.
that we agreed upon. Like
Mhm.
that's one thing that we have in common is we like horror. So
our,
yeah,
our very first date was to go see the Tom Cruise War of the Worlds.
it was.
So I mean, like,
Oh,
horror has
nice.
been essential for us since we started.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So it's just something that means a lot to both of us, and it's something that I think we always have agreed on throughout many ups and downs and disagreements.
Hmm.
Horror is something that's always been super special to the both of us. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I was like 7 or 8 when I came up across the movie. Oh crap, what's the movie I'm thinking of? Pet Cemetery. And I was like, oh, let's watch this, and I watched it, and I loved the way the anxiety and all of that came with it, and I was like, I'm in. I like this kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that's where it
Nice.
started for me.
Heck yeah. And that's cool that you guys can share that together. My wife and I are very much alike in that same way. She loves horror. I've had her on for like an episode. I want to get her on more.
Hmm.
Right now we're kind of dealing with our first pregnancy. Um,
Oh,
Oh, that's
congratulations, man!
awesome.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, it's going to be a baby girl. We're excited.
Oh.
Congratulations. A piece of advice from a father of three: enjoy your money now because that shit is gone here in a couple months. Um, but you're lucky. Having a little girl, I have a boy and two little girls, and having a little girl is the best thing in the whole world, man. Your whole life is going to change that day. You don't know it yet, but the
For
first
sure.
time you hold her, man, everything in this world is going to change.
It's
It's amazing to
yeah.
have a little girl. It's the best feeling. My son's the shit. He's my best friend. I do
Yeah.
everything with him. But my daughters, it's something different. It's something special. My son's my oldest, and then I got my 2 little girls after him.
It's just this deep love that you never knew existed.
You're gonna explode when you hold your little girl for the first time, Josh. And I'm so excited for you, man.
Thank you so much. That means a lot to me. I'm really, really excited. We're due in March, so
well, tell your wife that Ashley and I both said congratulations.
Yes.
We're very happy for you guys.
Thank you so much. I'll definitely pass that along to her. So if you were to pick like your favorite horror movie, what would it be?
House. Besides
People,
House.
People Under the Stairs. I love that movie.
Nice.
I think House will always be my favorite. I think the 2 best horror movies, if we're talking about what I feel is perfect from beginning to end, the 2 closest to the best horror movies to me would be Psycho and Nightmare on Elm Street. Both of them are kind of ruined by the ending. I think the ending kind of screwed both of those movies. Yeah, I hate the blow up down mom and Nightmare on Elm Street. And I hate how Norma Bates gets captured just by grabbing her arm and falling down with her. Like when Norman is Norma. Like I think that's the stupidest thing in the world. But
oh gosh,
those 2 movies I think are probably the closest to the most like the perfect horror movie. And a newer movie actually, The Dark and the Wicked. I'm really, really on The Dark and the Wicked train. Like that movie scared me. I'm 36 years old, man. That movie scared me. Like watching that movie, I was genuinely like unsettled and scared and nervous, and such a good movie.
Yeah.
Which says a lot when you watch horror movies like all the time, like one that really gets you.
I feel like you're desensitized, and then you get that one that actually like really freaks you out. It's like, oh, okay, I'm still in there.
Yeah.
Right. That's awesome. So usually I ask guests if they would like to give if you picked up a DVD and you're like reading the back of it, give us a quick synopsis of The Secret Window.
You want to do that one? A writer going through a divorce runs into trouble at a cabin in his house in the form of a Southern writer that accuses him of stealing his novel. He then goes through the ups and downs of trying to find his original to prove that he wrote it first, while also going through a divorce and trying to find out who this man is that has been stalking him these last couple of weeks.
Nice. That was perfectly summarized, man. I almost thought that almost felt rehearsed. So what were your opening thoughts going into this movie, like for the first time?
For like the first time we ever watched it.
Yeah.
My first viewing of this, I really did enjoy it. I liked the.
What, you really didn't, or you really did?
I really did enjoy it the first time we watched it.
I'm sorry.
And all that came with it, the little hints here and here, the foreshadowing. I enjoyed it the first time, the twist. I really like psychological thriller horror movies. So a good twist that gets me that's awesome. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
I was meh.
The first time?
Going into it the first time. Like going into it the first time, I was like, because I'm not a Johnny Depp fan.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge Johnny Depp guy. I mean, as an actor, I think he's an incredible actor.
He can do anything.
Yeah, he does everything, and he does it all really well.
Yeah.
Just normally his movies don't do it for me. As an actor, I think he's fantastic. Like, I don't want to get this misconstrued. Mm-hmm. Johnny Depp is a great actor, but usually his films just don't do it for me. So I went into this kind of with just like but we're also cautiously optimistic because it's based on the Stephen King short story Secret Window, Secret Garden. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I was torn on what to expect, and also after watching Mr. Deeds, seeing John Turturro in that, that's all I could see in this. Like, him, remember, sneaky, so.
I like. I don't know why.
So I mean, it's a movie that I went into as like let's check this out, let's watch it, and I was pleasantly surprised the first time I seen it. I really enjoyed it. Once we get into a deeper dive, I'll talk about some of the things on a rewatch. But yeah, my initial, I was cautiously optimistic, and I enjoyed it the first time I watched it.
Nice. Yeah, I didn't know the first time I went into it, like, I had seen so many other like Stephen King adaptations into movies, like, like Skinwalkers or was it Sleepwalkers? I might have I was like, I just might have just butchered that, and like other ones like Christine or Stand By Me, and like, I wasn't sure. Like, I'm like, okay, it's got Johnny Depp. I liked him in some other stuff. Like, I wasn't sure. Like, and I came really late into the game watching it for the first time. It was like a few years ago, and I was like, I always know him as like Captain Jack Sparrow or like Edward Scissorhands or just
Sure.
like these other characters, and I just didn't know what I was going to get into, and I was pleasantly surprised with this movie. I did not, the first time watching, I did not expect that twist, that we get at the end. And on the second watch, I was like, oh yeah, I remember all this. So I was like, I already knew what I was getting into.
Right.
But it was still enjoyable even on the second watch for me. I really enjoyed like watching Johnny Depp slowly kind of slip into this paranoia,
Yeah.
and like everything's going on around him, and you're like, is he really being like stalked by this guy, like, and all these events are happening, and it would lead you to believe that he is being stalked by this weird dude from Mississippi who claims his story is actually his story, and that, like, it was just like a crazy ride, for sure. um but yeah, so yeah, we, like you said, we get started with this film where that opening scene is him like walking in, like in the
Rushing in.
hotel room,
Yeah.
and like his wife cheating on him, and you could tell that it's obviously taken a toll on him, and he's really just going through it. Like, and as you go through the movie, you find out their like divorce isn't even finalized yet. She's off with this dude. Oh,
The divorce isn't finalized yet because he doesn't want it to be, but he
yep.
signed the paper.
Right. Even though I don't know, he just probably felt it was salvageable. I mean, she was completely over him, but he's definitely not over her.
No.
I just think for him, it's like he has to be the one in control. I think that's what his thing is. Like, because if you notice, a lot of this movie, at least for me, I don't want to speak for anybody else. A lot of this movie is about the loss of control and your loss of being able to control the things around you. And for him, there's nothing scarier than that, losing that control. Even when he's talking to the maid, he's like, I'll do this. I'll do this. Can't you see this? This isn't mine. I didn't write this. I don't use pseudo names. It's all about him and his ability to control situations. So when that is taken out of his hands, that's when he starts to freak. That's when he starts to get worried.
But I think also it's like he doesn't want to give up on, the marriage. Like, you can tell that he still loves her, but he doesn't want to change. You know what I mean?
I think that's his thing. He will say when it's over.
Yeah, but
you don't get to say when it's over.
He doesn't want to change.
You cheated.
Yeah,
but I'm not saying it's over yet.
Right.
So I think it's about that control. Even when they're in the room, when they're at the lawyer's office, and they push the papers over, and she kind of pushes it over so the boyfriend can see, and he grabs it and pulls it back. This is my stuff. You know what I mean? Like, it's about that control. I'm even going to control whether you can see what I supposedly had in that house or not. And I feel like a lot of this is about his ability to understand what he can and can't control in his own life.
I really hadn't really dug into it like that, but you make some very solid points on that.
When we get to the twist, I'll talk more on that too.
But so yeah, he's pretty much become a recluse. He's he's trying to write more stuff in his cabin, and he's kind of like lounging around all day, and then he writes a little bit. He's not happy with it. And this is when we get this first glimpse at John Shooter, the gentleman from Mississippi. You're rocking the hat there.
I don't usually wear a hat like this, guys. I'm doing this strictly for this episode. Old country boy from Mississippi.
Oh yeah, you're rocking it though. So he shows up and is like just like rapping on the door. Johnny Depp's like woken up out of a sound sleep, and the doorknob's rattling, and you can tell this dude, whoever's out there, wants to get in and is like has some beef. But so Johnny Depp reluctantly finally gets up and answers the door, and we have this John Shooter who just comes in hot and heavy, like, you stole my story, like, I know it, you big shot Hollywood, like, writer guy, like, how the heck did you get down to my hometown of Mississippi to to steal this, you know, from me. Like, I just his performance in this was really, really, really good. Like,
Yeah.
I like you said, you know him from Mr. Deeds, and it's like it's hard seeing him. Like, I've seen him in all these Adam Sandler movies, like Anger Management, all these other movies, and like you don't picture him as this like villainous person. At least for me, I haven't seen any others that he plays like really a villain. And but he sold it, and he definitely sold this this mystique, this like just like I don't know. I don't know.
Well,
But
even when Johnny Depp tells him, like, I wrote mine in 1994, he's like, that can't be. Like, you could feel the heartbreak and the fear in his voice at that point.
Yeah.
But the way both of their portrayals, like Johnny Depp and John, what is it?
Turturro.
Yeah. They just the way that they act and like play off of each other is just amazing. Like you can really feel like the tension and, you know, the anger and the hatred. Like they do really good with together.
Yeah. But can we talk about how if this movie was made today, it would be a 5-minute short film with them just Googling on their iPhones?
Yeah,
who wrote the story first?
We wouldn't go through all this because you could just you have
you
everything.
Stole my story. Well, according to Google,
right.
No, I didn't, Mr. Turturro. All right, I'm going back to Mississippi. Sorry to bother you.
It's over.
Enjoy your corn.
Credits roll.
Hold on, let me just grab the backup copy I have in my Gmail. Like, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Issue
you
solved.
have Google Drive, Mr. Shooter? I can shoot it right to your Drive account if you would like.
For sure. And so, you know, they kind of end it. Johnny Depp kind of slams the door on him and it's kind of like, you know, hooey, like, you know, this bullshit. And goes back to his, you know, his business. And you know, from there, gosh, sorry, I was writing notes because I was like,
You're good, man. We do it too. We got our notes right here. Yeah. I promise we did the same thing.
And he ends up, so yeah, he throws away John Shooter's story in the trash can. He's like this, whatever, you know, I'm not, he doesn't even take a glance at it besides the title and like to see his name. And so later on, like, you know, you said the maid finds it and she's like, oh, I found your story in the trash. And he's like, and like you said, he's like, this is not mine. Like, so that's when he finally, I think, decides to read it. And you can see there's like this moment he gets spooked at what he's reading.
Well, he pulls his copy out too.
Yeah.
And he's comparing them. And that's another part where we were talking about where he has to be in control. He has to get, I've never used a pseudonym. Everything I've done has been me. It's all me.
Yeah.
You know, so then he takes out the other copy and he's reading them together. That's like you said, that's a chilling part when he's actually coming to that realization, like, wow, these have so much in common.
But can we just talk about like the foreshadowing of her being like, I pulled out your story, you know, like
right.
There's so many little like bits like that.
I know you'll want to talk about one scene that you brought up when we were watching it too. That's the great thing about the cinematography of this movie, because you'll see by the end that I'm not the biggest fan of this movie. I like it.
I think it just doesn't age well.
Yeah, it didn't age well. Yeah. That's my thing. But the cinematography of it's great, and the way that sometimes they do a lot of show not tell.
Yeah.
With their foreshadowing, I thought was brilliant. They did a whole lot of show and not tell with a lot of the cinematography and what they're showing you. Like the bathroom scene, I know you're going to want to talk about. Yeah. To kind of let you know what's really happening. So I can give it points for that, and the performances in this movie are spot on. Everybody's performances in this movie are so damn good.
Yeah, and even on first watching, like if you really look at those little details, like you already know what this is going to be for sure.
And then right as he's reading that, you have like this flashback sequence too, that when he's up there in his little writing area, like where it shows his wife, like, well, soon to be ex-wife, kind of pulling away like the dresser, and there being this secret window. And she's like, oh wow, you know, I'm gonna look like a secret, I could have a secret garden out here. And like it's kind of like creepy, like all the flashbacks and dreams that he had throughout like this film were like creepy, and like, you know, just like you could tell this dude is just ridden down with a lot of like, I don't know, like I don't want to say guilt, but just like there's a lot of stuff, there's a lot of gears going on and stuff that
Stephen King always puts himself in his stories, and I feel like Mort Rainey, Johnny Depp's character, is Stephen King. You know, Stephen King wrote Christine after being hit by a car.
Yeah.
You know, like he wrote Pet Sematary after the death of one of his animals. Like, and in this movie, Secret Window is about his wife finding that secret window and talking about her garden and how she's going to plant stuff down there, and everything that in this movie that Mort Rainey does is very Stephen King-esque.
For sure.
Even down to, you know, the little inside joke about Stephen King has no freaking idea how to end a book. You know, damn, his ending is better than mine. You know, they make reference to that a bunch. Like even in the new It Chapter 2, Stephen King's like, read your new book. Stephen King himself, you know, hated the ending. You know, like it's always been a running joke for all of Stephen King's stuff.
Laugh about it,
right?
You know,
and so that's one thing that I really appreciated about this film. Stephen King had a lot to do with this film, if I remember correctly, and I like the fact that a lot of him is being portrayed in Mort Rainey. You know, and that's something I can appreciate a lot. And you were talking about, you know,
but like even with the writer's block and you know, like making yourself in solitude and all by yourself, like that has to.
Oh, it takes a toll.
Take a toll on your you know, your mind.
Oh yeah, he's like sitting there smoking, he's drinking, he's just off in his own world.
Doesn't smoke, right?
He doesn't smoke. What are you talking about?
Oh yeah. You're so right.
I like how he acts like a kid, like he's trying to hide it from the maid.
Yeah,
like he won't exhale. He's like, yep, everything's good.
Yeah. Yeah, I was expecting something to catch on fire, you know, because he was like, he just kind of stuck it under there. He's like not really paying attention to what's down there. Like, I was half expecting like something in like his trash can or something to catch fire and him be like, oh shit. But yeah, that was I enjoyed that because she kept coming up. She's like, some people just don't know what they've got, kind of like gives him this whole like little speech, and then she's like, that's all I've got to say, and like walks that, and he like she coming back. But yeah, you can, and I love the whole time he's like keeps talking to himself too. He's like, I didn't steal that story, like you know, like there's no way, like he's like trying to be reassuring.
So personal to him,
right?
How could I have stole this story when I lived this moment?
This is something I lived, like this can't possibly have happened to somebody else,
right? But damn, the ending is really good,
right?
Yeah, and so he, after a while, he ends up, you know, passing out like he usually does, and in his bathrobe, that seems to be like drink, write story. It's like rinse, cycle, repeat, you know, kind of thing going on in his life. And he's woken up to a phone call from his ex-wife, or soon to be ex-wife. And during that conversation, you find out that he actually has stolen someone's story before or done something like that. And he's like, but it's not the case, you know, now, like it's just because it happened one time doesn't mean I'm doing it again.
See, and I don't think he completely stole someone's story before. I think he like had a little bit of plagiarism.
Yeah.
It you know, ruined part of his career, and so he decided he would never do that again.
Well,
but
he like had to pay to like kind of have that
that quiet
brushed under the rug, because even like when they're at the courthouse or whatever, like trying to figure out what's going on, he's like, you didn't tell whatever her new boyfriend's name is, and
Ted.
And she's like, no, I didn't. Teddy.
I remember him mentioning that too, that he had to pay it off, kind of like hush hush money. So he ends up meeting up with Mort shortly after this whole situation, and I don't think did he mean to meet up with him? I can't remember. Like, I just know he goes down that trail and he ends up finding him sitting on the back of his car,
walking, and Mort was just like hanging out waiting for him.
Shooter,
yeah, that's what I meant.
And
Did
then
you
they
read my story,
right, and that's where we find out that he's like, this horse shit, I wrote mine in 1994, like you said, you know, or like he asked him first, he's like, well, when did you write yours? And he's like, well, you know, he's like, I reckon 1997. He's like, ha, you know, like it was this moment of like, ha, I knew I didn't rip you off. And so he like he's like, I even have it published in a magazine. And like, well, he's like, well, then you bring me that magazine and prove that you did not steal this story from me.
Yeah.
And at that same time, we kind of get this neighbor that passes by, honks at him, which we'll talk more about later. um, so, gosh, this is when things really start to get a little more heavy, I think, too, is after this meeting with Shooter. Because that goes from just being like a threatening confrontation to, action is being taken against, Mort or Morty.
Right.
And I was super saddened by this scene. Like, when he ends up finding like, the note out there, like his light is broken and he's like out there kind of investigating what's going on. It tells him like on the note, it says like 3 days, to do this. And we end up finding Chico, Johnny's Depp or Mort's poor dog. Like,
I know.
Oh, I just having pets that like hit me in the gut. I was like, dude, I'd be so livid if anyone ever like murdered my dog.
There's like a part of your family.
Yeah.
I actually think he handled that a lot more calmly than I would have. If that was Molly or Binks. I would have flown off the edge, dude. Like I would have went and found him. Like it would have been a wrap right there.
Yeah, I'm surprised because he seemed to be a very emotional person and the other aspects, but yeah, you said he kind of handled that like with a cool head, and I'm very shocked because that would not be my case. I don't think that'd be most people's cases. So something's wrong there.
The score though, when stuff like that happens, like here, the score is so awesome. Like that intense score when you see the dead dog, like I love the score.
Yeah. I know I usually like to find like some fun facts too while I'm like watching these movies that I guess so, how I was talking about the dream sequences and like the flashbacks and stuff. There's like this scene of like the ocean, like while
he's on the couch, like falling.
Yeah. When he like falls and hits the floor. That was actually like B-side like footage from the Lost World Jurassic Park that the director used in the film.
Cool.
Yeah, because I guess David, I think it's Cope. I don't know how to pronounce that. He worked on Jurassic Park, so he kind of had some access to that stuff, and that was like a fun fact that I found. I was like, interesting, because I didn't really like look as much into fun facts until I started doing these segments, and like I found some like other use of that too, is like the Wolfman, the remake they did. They reused there's like a scene where they're in a gypsy caravan camp, and like the grizzly bear was actually recycled and reused from the Golden Compass. So like there's the tendency to do that a lot, and I mean I would have never known. Like I've never put two and two together, so that's cool to find out. Sure. Yeah, so Johnny Depp proceeds to bury Chico out in the back, and then he decides that it's time to take matters to the sheriff, get the long arm of the law involved, because it's no longer just like this confrontation of like, show me the magazine, let's just duke this out mano a mano. It's gone a step too far, and the sheriff just seems to really blow him off. Really, he's like, is that really a crime, killing somebody's pet? Like, like
it should be,
right? Like Johnny Depp's like, animal cruelty, something. Come on,
destruction of personal property, like.
And then every time he like asks him a question, he just goes on some other tangent. Like he doesn't even listen to him at all.
Right? You could just feel like, wow, dude, really? Like, do they have like some kind of like checkered past with each other? Is there like something there that he just really doesn't pay much mind to Mort? Like, we don't know. Like, I don't know how long he's been up there for a while, but like, I don't think he's had anything like that. I'm sure there's no reason for the sheriff to act that way, but
Yeah.
he's just busy like doing his little, what are those things called? It's not crocheting, but like he has like that thing he's doing. Like he's just like,
Mhm.
uh-huh, uh-huh.
Like not listening at all. He could care less about anything Mort's saying.
Right.
Right. So then he ends up taking things to his friend Ken. Well, was it like, is that like a PI? I feel like he was like a private
Probably like a
investigator.
PI.
Yeah, because it kind of seems like he was the one he went to the first time he like plagiarized or whatever. Like he was kind of his
He's even asking him.
go-to
He's like,
guy.
"Is this the same situation
Yeah.
as last time?" Like, yeah,
Right? Did you steal this? Did you steal this story?
Right.
yeah. Are we doing this again? He's like, "I don't mind helping you,
Because
but you got to tell me the
it
truth."
sounds like the guy, previously was a little crazy too.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so, but
So he talks Ken and he's like, hey, come out here. Like, I know this time I did not steal anyone's story. Will you help me like confront this guy? I just need to get a copy of the magazine from his wife. What was her name? It was
In the movie?
Amy.
Yeah,
Amy.
Maria Bello,
Yeah.
Amy.
Yeah. He needs to go pick that up from her house. That's the proof he needs, like, but I just need somebody with me. This dude's crazy. So Ken is like, okay, yeah, I'll come out. Like, and he's like, just don't be freaked out when you see a black Cadillac sitting out front of your driveway.
right.
And it's so funny because he ends up, after he makes a little pit stop at Amy's house and doesn't even like go in there. He just kind of like lingers and like he watches her like with Ted. Huh?
I said, "Oh, he doesn't go in."
Well, we don't see that.
Yeah.
But he ends up coming back home and sure enough he sees that black Cadillac just like Ken said, and he like walks up and it looks like Ken's like face down in the steering wheel. And he's like probably thinking like, oh shit, is he dead? He like knocks on the window, pops up, scares the shit out of him. I mean, I wouldn't lie if I found that too. I'd be freaked out, especially if someone had just killed my dog and like
Right.
yeah.
We don't know how crazy this guy is. Like,
Exactly. That's the big part is we don't know at this point how crazy
like
is
how
this guy.
far will this guy go?
He's already killed a dog.
Yeah.
So
Right.
why would he not kill a man?
Right.
Like there's some screws loose, so
Yeah.
sky's the limit. So Ken gets out, he's like, yeah man, I checked your house, there's no boogeyman, nothing in there, like we're all good. But Mort being totally paranoid is like has him check the house again a second time, do another sweep while he's in there, and he's like, yeah man, you're good, like I'm gonna go back to my hotel. And he's like, I don't remember the name of the hotel, but he's like, the place. And sure enough, it happens to be the same hotel that he caught his wife cheating at him or cheating on him with there. So he's like, yeah, I know the place.
Yeah. I love the little flash you have right there. It's just a short flash. Yeah, I know it. But it's enough to give, again, show not tell. It's enough to give us audience, we know what he's talking about now too.
Oh yeah. Yep. And then this is where, even though he's been cleared, he's still hearing things, kind of like still like weary of like going around his house. And so he like picks up a weapon, kind of like,
Can we just add the fact that it's a
Yeah.
robo oar that he picks up, like walking around with an oar around his house?
he's thinking, get one good crack at him. Hopefully it does the job.
Knock him out.
Hopefully that's pretty solid wood. But so you get this scene, and I think, is this the scene that you guys were talking about that you wanted to elaborate on?
Where he sees him in the mirror, that scene. Yeah. So
well, he doesn't see it. He sees him.
That's what I'm saying. He sees like his shadow, I guess, in the mirror. And
it's not even in the mirror. He sees his shadow when he shoots him. He shoots the mirror.
Shoots the mirror, yeah.
Yeah.
But when he goes in, he says, I shoot the mirror. Like, it's just me. Like, he sees himself in the mirror. And I love, again, more foreshadowing there.
Right. To what's really going on.
Like, he was like, I just shot myself in the mirror.
And I broke my shower curtain.
And
I broke my shower glass.
And then there's like that mouse in there.
Yeah. Which, he shows the utmost care for it. He takes it outside and releases it back into the wild.
I was like, he's just going to get back in your house again.
Yep. He's coming right back, bro.
Right.
Especially with all the crap you leave around.
Yeah. Doritos in your drawer.
Yeah.
Right. And he's bringing his friends too,
Right.
For sure.
And, he ends up, downstairs. He ends up not Mort, Shooter. He hears him behind him, and he's hanging out on the staircase, and is like, pretty much tells him, fix my ending.
Mm-hmm.
If there's one thing you can do for me, fix the ending, because you ruined it. Like, you took my story, you pretty much copied it word, pretty much most of the way, and then you just fucked up the ending. So, which is interesting. He's just like, okay, I was like wondering at that point, I'm like, is that gonna settle it? Like, probably not, but so from there, he ends up going to sleep, and his phone is unplugged. So he wakes up the next morning. There's no phone ringing like usual. Like his ex-wife, I noticed she calls him a lot.
She does, yeah. I think she's worried about like his psychological, like his mental health for sure.
Yeah.
Like, I think she still cares about him. She's married to him for a long time, so.
Yeah.
We also get a little bit of a hint that a miscarriage drove them apart.
Yeah.
She drops that line, do you think we'd still be together? And we don't know if it was a miscarriage, a stillborn, or a baby, the baby. Do you think how does she say it? Do you think that we would still be together if the baby lived or something? If we wouldn't have lost the baby?
Yeah.
So I mean, that shows that there's something deeper here than just two people that got married and
get along or something.
Yeah, something
forced them apart.
Yeah, something dramatic forced them apart.
Yeah, like
even the last couple of years, you were never with me. You were there, but you were never ever with me. Which is, what the number one cause of divorce behind infidelity is miscommunication. So
yeah,
when you're there but you're not there.
Yeah, and like you said, that very well could have been like the beginning of the end. Like maybe they were all happy and everything was going great, and then that happened, and then just like they just drifted and drove a wedge in between them. And
people definitely deal with things in different ways. They mourn in different ways, so that's a hard thing to mourn.
Sure.
Yeah, and maybe his way of coping was just like distancing himself, kind of just burying himself in his work, and just like if it's out of sight, out of mind, and I'm sure his wife was a constant reminder too, having to like know like I'm like this happened to them, and like just I feel like that probably could have been. I mean, it's not for sure, but like it seems like a strong candidate for why things went down the path that they did.
Yeah.
But so he ends up plugging in the phone that morning, and then the phone starts ringing, and we get the news that their house because the whole divorce thing has been burnt down. So Mort gets in his vehicle, ends up driving down to the crime scene, and we find out it was arson. I think he mentioned it was like a champagne bottle with like some fuel in the champagne.
This really works, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I love that line. I don't know why, but he's like, oh, so this really does work, huh? The way that Johnny Depp delivers that line. There's another line delivery we're going to talk about here in a little bit. That is one of my favorite lines in the whole movie. You already know what I'm talking about. But that's one of my favorite line deliveries. Oh, so this really does work.
Like the ever burning question.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. So yeah, so we we find out that Ted is from a place, I think it's in this scene or just shortly after that, Ted mentions he's from Shooter's Bay.
Mm.
And Johnny Depp's like, Mississippi? like,
Right.
like, he's like, no, Tennessee, far from it, like, but like, it's just so weird that this guy's name is Shooter, and like Shooter's Bay, he's like, like he's trying to make a connection, like, okay, is this subliminal? Like, is this like,
Are you hinting at me what's going on here?
Yeah, like did
right?
you send this guy, to torture me?
Right. So then we get like, this whole conversation shortly after between Ken and Johnny Depp. I feel like I'm giving a play-by-play of the movie. I'm sorry. I tend to rant.
Good, dude.
So they have this conversation. He mentions, well, my neighbor Tom Greenleaf passed by. He might be worth talking to because he's seen this guy. It's not just me. Like, I have like a witness who can probably identify, the shooter guy. He's like, he tends to hang out down at the store, diner, whatever, because it's like this grocery store diner. Like,
Yeah,
get up.
I've never
I've never seen a grocery store
they're like
diner.
sitting there drinking coffee, and then in the back is like groceries and stuff. That's crazy.
Right? Like,
I guess.
You were saying that, like, man, you could just go there, get your groceries, eat your breakfast, and then head out on your way.
Right.
Right? Shoot, sounds like the perfect setup.
Absolutely.
So the next day he decides he's gonna go meet up with Ken and with Greenleaf, and they're gonna have this conversation. And he like heads through his house, and he like looks up on the key rack, and the key's not there, and he's like, what the fuck? Okay. Like, where are my keys? And he like goes outside and sees that his car door is like wide open, his car's on, like, what the fuck? um and he finds Shooter's cap as well out on his porch, so he bags that shit up. He doesn't want to touch it.
Right.
Like, he's like, this is evidence, I'm not going to tamper with it. So he like drives off to go meet up with Ken and them, and he gets there, and he's like, where is, he doesn't see Ken anywhere, he doesn't see Tom, and he's like, Tom's a frequenter there, so that's kind of odd. Like, he's like, and he's asked the guy up at the gal up at the counter, he's like, have you seen like a guy, looks like a New Yorker officer looking dude? Like, she's like, no, can't say I have. And so he leaves because he's like, shit, what if something's happened? Like, I've got to go find out, where Ken is. And this is where we have another kind of moment where it's starting to point the finger at Ted a little bit, because he's driving towards, I think he's heading to the hotel, I'm guessing, and he sees Ted at the gas station just outside of town or whatever, and he's like, oh hell no.
Like, why are you here? Yeah.
Right. What are the odds of this?
Why are you by my house? Yeah.
Right. So he like puts it in reverse, like heads back to the gas station, and we have this confrontation with Ted, and he's like, what are you doing here, Ted? He's like, well, actually I was coming out to see you. And so they have like this whole spat about, like, he's like, well, just sign the papers, dude. Like, this is mostly he mentions like, this is my fault, which is another thing that's like, oh, so like, is he hinting, or is, like, is it like he's talking about the infidelity, or is he talking about what's currently going on with Mort? So it's kind of like a double-edged sword of kind of like, it could mean either way, I guess. And he's like, just sign the papers, we can get out of each other's lives, dude. Like, I don't want this, you don't want this, Amy doesn't want this, let's just move on. Like, and he's like, you could have it sent to my lawyer. And they're like, he's like, we did, and he can't get a hold of you. So and then he ends up like physically like hurting Ted in the process. And
Yeah.
he's just like screw you, heads off. And that's like,
Well, he kind of ducks and Ted hits that one, like hurts his hand by hitting the window.
I'm just saying, punching a car window hurts.
Yeah.
It really hurts.
I'm sure it does.
We locked our keys in our car one time.
Oh.
That was my first idea, was to punch
like,
the window. I did it, and I was like, "Oh my god, I instantly regret this."
Instant regret.
So when he did that, I felt it. I was like, "Ooh, Teddy, I'm sorry. You may be a crazy bastard, and you may be setting someone up for murder, but I'm sorry about your hand, bro. I know that shit hurt."
Yeah.
well, because you got like these Hollywood movies where they like, you know, they wrap their hands in like just like their t-shirt and they punch through it like it's nothing. Like,
Punch
you know,
through it,
I
yeah.
call bullshit.
Yeah, right.
I
Right?
call bullshit. That shit
For
hurts.
sure.
Especially if you have an '08 Pontiac G6 with a custom exhaust. It hurts to punch that window, man. Those things are tough.
stop a bullet.
Right.
Yeah, so from there, you know, he heads back towards home. Like, did he just decide he's not going to go find out, you know, what's going on with Ken anymore? Like, it goes from like,
He was like, this was too much work. Like, I'm done for the day.
I just watched an idiot punch his car window. I'm going home.
I'm stressed. Like, I'm done.
I'm done. But so he heads home, and he ends up well, hold on. Oh yeah, he gets a call telling sorry, yeah, he goes home. Shooter ends up calling him, and he's like, you know, meet me where we met the last time, you know, that trailhead or like road. And so Johnny Depp heads down there and sees his neighbor Tom Greenleaf's green Bronco sitting out there, and he sees Tom sitting in there, and he's like, Tom, like, you know, like Tom is like snoozing or something. He like heads up to the window and finds out that no, in fact, Tom is dead. And not only is Tom dead, but Ken is in the back seat.
Yeah,
and
he's dead as well.
he's like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Takes off from he tries to like run off from the scene, and you know, he's like, he hears Mort calling him behind him, and like Mort's like cleaning his hands, and like, you know, like ends up telling him, you know, like, well, where are you going? You know, I'm gonna tie these murders back to you no matter what. You're connected. Like,
right. Which he like makes him do the cleanup. Like,
yeah.
I love that. Whose screwdriver you think is in that fellow's head?
Right?
At that point, shit.
Yeah, he's
like, your prints are all over it, and you know, like, so Johnny Depp's left to clean up the mess, and God, this scene gave me a little anxiety because, like, you know, he's in there, he's like figuring out what he's gonna do, and he like closes Tom's eyes with like a paper towel or something, and he like finally decides he's gonna like get him to drive off the cliff, like way down the gas, and send him off. And then like Tom like leans into the horn, is just like blaring as they're going down the road, and Johnny Depp gets like hooked up in there, and he's like, oh shit. Like,
yeah, his watch gets stuck.
Yeah.
I thought that was going to come into play later.
Like, they find his watch.
Yeah, like they found his watch in the car. Like, I seriously thought that was going to come into play.
Me too.
I get why they did it now, to build the suspense.
Yeah.
But that could have went in such a better direction. Or even like at the very end, the sheriff could have been like, we found your watch on them boys we pulled out of the water.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they could have went in so many different directions with that watch. I feel like that was just a missed opportunity at that point. Because that was my first thought. Like, oh, he's hit now. They got his watch in the water.
I thought that too, actually. Like,
right?
That's like incriminating right there.
Yeah. Why would your watch be in the truck we pulled out of the water with these two dead fellas with your
right?
screwdriver, you baby?
Yeah. It's just like mounting up against him, really. And so, but I just got like anxiety because I'm like, dude, like, you're approaching the end of the cliff. Like, get out of there. Like, but he manages to like get his watch, you know, leave his watch in there and get unhooked from it. And like, just in time, because that thing goes careening off that cliff into that lake. Oh man, I hate moments like that. I'm like, I felt like he was gonna get out, you know, like there's no way he was gonna do it, but I don't know, you get so into it sometimes that you, even though you
Mhm.
know it's not going to happen, you're just like, you're on it for the ride, and you're just like, dude, dude.
Yeah. Like, come on, pull your hand out.
Right. So then, because of the fire, we end up finding out, obviously he said his copy of the magazine was there. But
Mhm.
before that, I guess I kind of skipped over this, but Ken mentions that, he can get him a copy, like they can get a copy mailed to him of the magazine. So it's like, whew, okay, there's
He already
another
got it
chance.
overnighted by UPS.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he heads into town and, like, goes to get his package from the post office. And you can see that there's like this kind of like flirtatious girl there that's like obviously thinks that Mort's hot, and like, like it's like, oh, he's an older man, but I'd love to jump his bones. And but she's like, she says some things that he mishears at first, or we end up finding out that he mishears.
Mhm.
Like, she's like, I know what you did. And he's like,
Dude,
what?
I
What?
saw what you did.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
I saw what you did. He's like, I gotta throw another bitch in the water.
Right, I'm gonna have to like drag this lady out of the back of the post office and dispose of her body
Right.
too. um but we end up finding out it's him supposedly mishearing her, and so he's relieved, um and ends up going back to his house with the magazine. And you notice when he like is as finally gets the package and looks at it, it looks like it's been tampered with, like it's already partially ripped.
Mm-hmm.
And he pulls out the magazine, and, okay, yeah, 1994 on the magazine. And then he flips to the table of contents, and he's like, okay, there's my story, it's on page 87. And so, he's flipping, and it's only like the page before and then after the story. And he's like, what the hell? Like, did Shooter do this? But how could he have done this? Like, how could he have gotten my package and ripped out the pages of the magazine? um and I guess, oh God, I'm doing this. So the sheriff, when he goes out of the post office, the sheriff tries to like chat with him in his window. I kind of skipped over this part, but he's like, I'll call you, like, don't don't come, like, he's pretty much like, I'll call you, don't worry about it, we'll talk, whatever. And like speeds out of there, and you kind of notice this look of like suspicion on the sheriff's face, like
Mhm.
now he's suddenly interested in what's going on.
Right.
So we have this scene too where um Johnny Depp's at home, and he's like, he decides he's going to put on Mort's hat. And he he has like this moment where he's talking to himself, like he's having like this long drawn out conversation with himself, where, pretty much his inner self is telling him, you're the one who did this, like, we need to stop this before you do anything else, like, you're at fault here, like.
Mhm.
And he's like literally just bickering with himself over this. Hopefully I'm not
Well,
jumping in it.
I love when he does it. When he does the, and his inner self's like, why'd you put on the hat? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite Johnny Depp line deliveries of all time. Why'd you put on the hat? I don't know.
Yeah.
I love that line.
Why'd you put it on? I don't know.
I'm not skipping over your other, because I know you mentioned earlier you were like there was something else you wanted to mention, and I'm like, God, I hope I'm not skipping over things that Ken wants
It's
to say.
definitely that part, man. Like that part. I just love it. How even the look he does. He's like, why'd you put on the hat? I don't know. I love that part. So every time we watch this film, man, I laugh at that part.
Oh gosh, yeah. So there's like this, and in the midst of this too, there's like this weird like short sequence where like the house cracks, like it like cracks up and around, and like I don't know what that was all about, but he's just seriously tripping at this point. Like,
I think that's like the visualization of his mind breaking apart. Like that's him
oh,
visualizing, the separation of Shooter and Mort. Like we're finally coming to that realization. These are two different people inside the same body. Because even when you find, I mean, we're obviously at that part now. You have the best part of cinematography in the film with the shoot her. When he shuts the door and instead of shooter, it says shoot her. And he even says, he's like, Mort, he put up a fight till the very end, but I had to put him down, man. I didn't want to, but I had to. Like,
so that part of him took over.
Right.
That part.
And he even becomes physically, he becomes a different man at this point. He gets braces.
Let's just say like how well Johnny Depp portrays that character. Like he goes from Mort to Shooter, and he does such a phenomenal job like portraying that character. Like he's a really great actor.
And another
whether
piece
you
of,
like him or not. Like
another piece of foreshadowing that I don't even know if you noticed because we didn't talk about it yesterday is there's a point when he's talking to Shooter for the first time and he starts talking with a southern accent.
Yeah.
Johnny Depp does.
Huh.
And like I thought
it was like him like making fun of him. Like
that's what I thought too.
Yeah.
But I don't think it is. I think it's him, like he's trying to do that separation.
Yeah.
And he lost the point of that separation. And he started talking in that southern accent that he created, by the way. We found out he created Shooter when he was at a garage sale with Amy.
Yeah.
I'm just an old farm boy from Mississippi. He created Shooter. And I always felt like the house breaking, back to that point, was the true separation happening. Him physically seeing the separation that's happening in his mind between Shooter and Mort. They're not the same guy anymore.
Right.
It's not a part of his imagination anymore. This is a real person now.
Yeah. Which that, I don't even know why that didn't strike me, but that totally makes total sense. And you also get like this moment there where he's having like flashbacks of like the crimes being committed and him actually being the one to commit them.
Yeah.
So it's all come together now. It's all like, it's like, okay, there's no denial. He's the one who did it. He's just he was just a figment of his imagination that he created, and pretty much he has become this character. And we have, so there's the scene like, Amy decides that she's going to go out to confront Mort, and get him to sign the papers. She's just like, she's done, I think, and she just wants to move on. I mean, you could tell the whole time, she seemed kind of torn. She was always just like checking in on him, but she's trying to move on with her life. But this is finally it. She's like, okay, I want to go out there alone. Ted, you just seem to set him off. Let me go by myself. I'll be home at 7 or by 7 or whatever.
Right.
And so Ted, is like totally against it, but she ends up leaving by herself, and she arrives at the cabin and finds all these torn pages out on the ground. And we come to find that these are the pages from the magazine.
Can we talk about real quick though? Even if let's say Shooter was a real guy and those pages had been ripped out of the magazine, his author title, or his the title of him being the author and the title of that book are still in the table of contents. We still see those in the table of contents. So there's still proof that he wrote that story, and that story was a part of that magazine. Right. Even if the story's been ripped out, his name, his author credit, and the name of the story is still in the table of contents. So it's not like, I ripped the story out, so it's not here anymore. We literally see him go to the table of contents to look for the page number, which 94, 184, something like that. So I mean, it's still in there. Yeah, the proof is still there that he was a part of this story way before this Shooter fella was. So that's another thing that I always thought was kind of weird, along the lines of if we had Google back then, this movie would have been a short film. But you can still see the fact that he did write that story. He was a big part of writing that story. And he did it long before Shooter did. It's still there. Right. The table of contents shows that the story was there. So I guess I don't understand that part. I don't understand the reasoning behind it. I mean, I guess you're trying to set up the story that Shooter found it first. He ripped the pages out so he couldn't prove it, but he could still prove it. It's still in the table of contents. Yeah. So
Yeah.
That's the part that I don't know. I don't like that part.
Yeah.
Like the fact that they're ripped out. So he didn't do it because the pages aren't here. Table of
Yeah.
contents is just a big fibber.
Mhm.
You know, like that's the part that I was just kind of like, wait, hold on, slow down, beep, back up, Richie.
Right.
But like
Um,
I said, there's a lot of holes in this story. It's not
yeah.
a perfect movie, but it's still enjoyable. Still enjoyable.
Yeah, and that kind of leads you to think like, well, maybe was it like maybe that story was written previously, that maybe that was his rough manuscript. It was written in 1997, and then he revised it for this when it finally did release to the magazine, like, like his revisions, like, and that makes sense maybe why the ending, maybe he had a different ending originally, but then he like totally messed it up and then made it for this magazine, and it wasn't like his true story that he originally was telling, which, I mean, I don't know, that's just a guess, but yeah, so then his wife ends up, going into the house and seeing that it's just destroyed, there's just turmoil everywhere, and she sees all the, the shooter and all that stuff like that, carved into the wood, and like the Jack Daniels bottle and the cigarettes, and she's like, oh geez, like,
Can we talk about the mirror between this and The Shining? Like, there's even a moment in this where Johnny Depp is wearing a shirt that looks just like Jack from The Shining. Jack continuously writes, all work and no play make Jack a dull boy. Johnny Depp writes shooter all over the place. Alcohol is the kicker for him. Like, there's so many similarities between Mort and Jack from The Shining. That
I mean, they have this thing that takes over them and makes them crazy for sure.
Well, I feel like all of Stephen King's novels, like I said, they all have a lot to do with him, and addiction is a big part of who he was, and overcoming addiction and mental health. And when you're continuously writing about your personal experiences, a lot of similarities are going to come into play.
Absolutely.
So I love the fact that Stephen King doesn't go, this is kind of similar. He says, you know what, fuck it, it's me. I don't care if it's similar. I wrote this. This is who I am. I'm putting it on the paper. And the similarities between a lot of his characters have always been there. And I just love like I said, the mirroring of who Jack is and who Mort is. Like the mirror between these two characters, I think is amazing. I think I love the fact that they stuck with that. They didn't try to hide it and push it away.
Yeah.
They kept those right up in your face. Like I said, the shooter in comparison to all work and no play make Jack a dull boy, it's carved all over the house instead of being on the typewriter. Like it's great. I love it. I love it so much.
Yeah, and then you think about it, like Jack was unsuccessful in his attempts to kill his family, and then but Mort is ultimately, we find out, I won't ruin that just yet, we'll get there. But yeah, so she's investigating, and she ends up in his little study area, and that's when we get Johnny Depp lurking behind the door, and she's like, oh my god, like, like startled the hell out of me, and he's like starts talking in that accent, and that's where we get the whole reveal to her, and he kind of tells her, well, Mort, I took care of him, like kind of how like he spoke earlier, and had mentioned that he was saying like, I didn't want to have to do it, but like, he fought it, but like in the end, ultimately I won, and so this is who I am. And so he ends up attacking her, and she ends up getting out to her car, and she's like having the dickens of a time getting her stick shift or whatever to work, and getting the emergency brake off, and gives Johnny or Mort enough time to come out, and he has the rock in his hand and smashes out her window, and drags her ass back. Yeah. He's like, let me learn from Ted's mistake.
Yeah.
He ends up dragging her ass back in the house, and ends up stabbing her with, I believe it was a screwdriver. Like, does this dude just have a plethora of screwdrivers? Is that his weapon of choice?
Yeah. I have lots of loose screws in this house, and I don't just mean in my head, so I keep screwdrivers all over the place.
Well, because like he killed Tom with a screwdriver. The dog was killed with a screwdriver, and now he's like stabbing his wife with a screwdriver. Like, like what the hell, dude? but he ends up bringing her out to the back to her secret garden, that she had back there. And he's about to finish her off when we hear a car pull up, and it's good old Ted to save the day. And so Johnny Depp kind of like hides right around the corner, and she's crying out for Ted. So of course he's gonna come to her rescue, and as he comes out the door, takes shovel straight to the face, which oh, I I can only imagine. I've stepped on the opposite end of a shovel and had the handle hit me in the face, but I couldn't imagine taking the actual shovel to the face. But
I literally did that, like as well with a rake. It was seriously like Sideshow Bob,
so
dude. Like I was like, wham!
It was funny because we were kind of like bickering, and then he stepped on it and it hit him, and I was just like,
I was like, don't.
Don't say a word.
Yeah. It just felt like instant gratification for me.
Yeah. And then so he knocks Ted clean out and ends up shoveling this dude to death, like
right through the neck, man.
Oh, freaking gruesome. But yeah, so he kills Ted, and she's just screaming and crying, and then he goes and like he's quoting the book or like his story while he's doing all this, and like
I'm sure eventually her death will be a mystery, even to me.
I love that. Yeah.
Right. And then we don't even get to see her death. It like cuts off screen and fades out to like the next scene.
What's scarier than our imagination?
Right. Like
imagine. But we do know that her body was intact when she died. Have you seen the alternate ending to this film?
No, I have not.
Okay, so the alternate ending, since we're there now, we can talk about it. After he's done talking with the sheriff, the camera goes out and it pans down to the garden, just like in ours. But then it keeps going and going, and you see her body and Ted's body buried under the ground in the secret garden. And it's I like that ending. I don't know why they cut at the garden, showed his stupid fucking chew on the. I hate that. I hate the ending when he chews on the corn. So stupid. But in the alternate ending, the camera pans down all the way through the dirt, and almost like a Tremors like shot.
The chewing of the corn is just like he's getting rid of the evidence. Like her body is in the garden now. That's how I think.
That's fine, but it doesn't have to end with him just going.
He just hates anybody eating. You're so weird about eating stuff.
Eating,
and
chewing, and drinking. When I hear someone on film going, or
he'll like change the channel.
I get pissed, dude. Like, you want to lose me on a movie really quick? That's a quick way. Show me people eating, chomping, or slurping their drink. That's a wrap. I'm out. I can't do it. I get physically irritated when I see it or I hear it. It's just like, ugh, that's gross.
Right. And before that whole like. And before the ending of the movie too, we have him, like you said, with braces. He ends up back at that diner store, and the girl from the post office who had originally been hitting on him kind of is like out there checking out. He's like, hi, and she's just was like kind of like ignoring him and doesn't want anything to do with him.
You just see how uncomfortable,
you can feel
like how uncomfortable the whole town when he comes in. Like, they just like don't want him there. Like they know. Even though they don't have the evidence, like they know.
Right? Like all of a sudden these people just all like go out there and they end up missing, and like, like he's one that was crying wolf from the beginning, like he was the one that was under attack, and like so, but yeah, like then we get that scene, the sheriff shows up at his house, comes in, and he like, oh, like, hey, come on up, like Mort's still acting friendly, like he's got.
Sorry, I had my headphones on, didn't hear you, Sheriff.
And he's just like, it has to have. He's pretty much telling the sheriff, he's like, it has to have a good ending, and the sheriff's like, well, just don't come into town anymore. Go shop next door in whatever the other city was called. I can't remember the name of it, but he's like, well, I know what you did, and eventually. We're going to find the evidence. We're going to lock you away. And then that's when we have that whole scene, he's eating the corn and it ends and everything. And yeah, I don't know. I don't really like people eating on screen either. The more that I think about it, it's just,
Dude,
Especially
it drives me nuts, man. Drinking is worse.
Like the slurping
When you have this
sound.
or the
Even if our kids do it, he's like, stop it right now. Or if they do like the bubble thing with their drink, he's like,
oh
no.
geez.
Yeah.
where you can like
The-
when
yeah.
there's no drink left and
Or,
you're still
yeah.
slurping on the
You're
straw.
like, it's gone.
It's
You got it."
gone. There's nothing left in there. Throw it away. Like, please, I'm gonna lose my damn mind.
Oh man, I can't wait for those days. um, but yeah, so now that we've kind of discussed the movie, what are your closing thoughts on this film? You know, getting that second watch, I think you kind of mentioned in the beginning of our video, but what were your final thoughts on this film after getting that second watch in?
I feel the same way about this that I do most movies that are reliant on their twist and not their story, which is not a knock. Like there's movies that's supposed to be that way, like this, the Visit, the M. Night Shyamalan film where she goes and visits the grandparents. That's a totally different experience on the second view when you already know what the twist is.
Yeah.
I actually feel like I would have liked this movie more if Shooter was a real guy.
Because you're a slasher guy and like that's your thing.
Yeah. Like if Shooter would have been a real crazy dude, I think I would have enjoyed the movie more. But who knows if that would have happened? Maybe this movie would have been completely forgotten because it didn't have that twist to it.
That's true.
You know, everything happens for a reason, and Butterfly Effect. Who knows what could have happened after that? But I just on a second watch, it wasn't as fun for me as it was the first watch. Because another thing that I do personally is when I'm watching a film, I'm always trying to figure out what the twist is.
Yeah.
Like I'm always trying to
when
gauge.
Know
when I already know what it is. Like there are other movies that I don't feel like they have really, really good twists, but aren't relying on them. The Sixth Sense is a movie that I could watch 100 times in a row and still find something brand new that I love about it every single time.
Yeah.
I think the worst part of The Sixth Sense is the ending because it
takes
ruins
away from everything else.
Yes, that's all anybody talks about with The Sixth Sense is that ending, when really that whole movie's a work of art, man. Like the acting, the cinematography, the hints that are dropped. Oh my gosh, it's such a fantastic movie from beginning to end, and everybody talks about it. You know, Bruce Willis was dead the whole time. Yes, there was another hour and 38 minutes and 45 seconds that I enjoyed too.
Right.
So, but this is one of those movies to me that was so reliant on what the twist was that it's a cut and copy version of so many other movies. When you go into guy in the woods hiding from a stalker, you know, like there's nothing really about this movie to me that stands out. I mean, I'd still give it 2 out of 5 stars. You know, I think it's a good movie. I like the movie.
Yeah.
But I just don't like it as much as I did on that initial watch. It didn't stick with me. It doesn't have the staying power watching it 15, 20 years later. I don't remember when it came out.
2004.
Yeah.
Oh, damn. Yeah, almost 20 years.
Yeah.
So you watch it almost 20 years later. It just doesn't have the staying power with me that it did.
Yeah.
But I would strongly recommend if people haven't seen it to watch it. You know, like I would never.
You definitely want them to go in with, you know, nothing spoiled for them. But yeah, I agree. Like I feel like it doesn't really age well. And I love a psychological thriller, and I like a good twist. And on first viewing, I was really shocked, but
because we didn't go into this movie thinking there was a twist.
Yeah,
and I think that's the best thing. Like when you have trailers that are like the best twist since The Sixth Sense, you're like, oh great, I got to be here waiting for it.
So now you know there's a twist, and then you're constantly like, oh, that's the twist. Oh, this is the twist. Like you're constantly trying to figure it out.
Every Saw movie, every Scream movie, like you know what you're getting, but you know there's gonna be some twist as to who the killer is.
What is the twist exactly?
Right. Yeah. I think I like it better when it's a movie like Secret Window, where you don't have any expectation of a twist, and then they shock you with it.
I like to be awed by a good twist. Like I really like that for sure.
Yeah. Right. But the negative to that
is that they rely on it
right, and the rewatchability of it just isn't there. You know, like for me. But again, if somebody's making art, I really hope that there is rewatchability for other people out there. I hope that there's people out there this is their favorite film. I would never wish that on any film except Exorcist 2.
Exorcist 2.
Shots fired.
I hate that movie.
That movie.
Yeah.
Is something.
It really is.
I feel like it has good qualities though. Like the scenery is beautiful. The score is really beautiful. The characters they're really good too. So
this movie is it's a marathon for Johnny Depp. He carries the whole movie. Like, yeah, you get these other scenes with, other actors, but it's mostly Johnny Depp's movie.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like this is Johnny Depp's Evil Dead. like where Bruce Campbell carries that whole movie. Sure, there's other characters and stuff that are around in the movie,
Right.
and their performances are great. I'm not knocking anybody in this film or the Evil Dead franchise, but this was Johnny Depp's movie. Just like those are Bruce Campbell's movies. He's the center point of them. He chews up the scenery. Most of the screen time is him by himself in the cabin or talking to this other guy who isn't even really there. Like, this was Johnny Depp's film. So that's another thing I do like about this movie is and coming from someone who's not a huge Johnny Depp fan, it was great to see him chew the scenery and do a character that I genuinely enjoyed. You know, his portrayal not only of Mort, but his physical portrayal of becoming Shooter, I thought was really great.
Yeah,
so,
he nailed it for sure.
Yeah, now that we're almost done with this, I'm gonna take this stupid fucking hat off now.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I dig it, man. Like I said, 2 out of 5 stars for me personally. But it's one of those movies that if I could go back and, you know, Men in Black myself and rewatch it again for the first time, having not watched it, I would totally do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would take the opportunity to rewatch this again because we were lucky. I didn't know there was any type of twist to this movie when we first seen it.
Yeah.
I was just expecting a straightforward slasher film. This guy went crazy. You know, he thinks that someone plagiarized his work and he's going to kill him for it. He's going to make him suffer first. He's going to take away the things he loves and then take his life away. So it was nice to see that twist the first time, but another part of me wishes we could get an alternate take where Shooter was a real guy and him and Johnny Depp had the oar battle in the living room.
Fire pokers and oars.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the alternate title of the movie. You got Secret Window and then you got Fire Pokers and Oars, the alternate take.
Nice. Yeah, and I mean, you gave it two. You said 2 out of 5 stars. I was actually gonna.
Me. What would you give it, babe?
I will say 2.5 out of 5.
You just gotta one up me
I gotta half up you. Yeah.
Yeah, not one up me, half up me. And that's another thing that me and Ashley do. Like, her notes are on her phone, mine are on my phone.
Oh yeah.
Like, we don't want this to be like discussed. I didn't read her notes. She didn't read mine.
We have different opinions on a lot of things.
We want to keep it that way. And I don't want her notes to influence me. She doesn't want my notes to influence her. Like, that's who we are. We want to be, like, honestly, and I feel like an ass, but like my friends that do movie reviews, I can't watch their reviews until after I've watched the movie because I know that they're my friends and I'm gonna let their reviews skew how I look at a movie even before I've seen it. So like, people always ask me, "Yo, did you watch my Smile review?" Well, I will. You know, just wait till I watch it.
Right.
I don't want to skew what my perception of the film is going to be, and I know that she's my best friend.
If you go into it and everyone's like, "Oh, this is crap,"
I'm
you're
automatically
gonna be like, "Oh, I'm gonna hate this."
Yeah.
Like, why even try to enjoy it?
Right.
Yeah.
So that's why I won't read her notes or I don't know her top 10 lists or anything when we do that because she's my best friend and she's a huge influence on me. And I don't want her to sway what my feelings are towards anything. So I wanted to give you 100%, not just, you know, Sledgehammer Horror, but Ken and Ashley's different perspectives on how we felt about the movie as well. So I give it 2, you give it 2.5, and we're both right around the same area. On first watch though, I would have gave it probably a 3.5 to 4. If we were basing it just off our first watch, my ranking would be a whole lot higher. If we're basing it off first watch. So that's how much this twist is detrimental to the film.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I still think I kind of waver. I really enjoyed it. I mean, even to this day, it didn't hit me like you said, it doesn't hit me like the same way it did the first time, but I really enjoy the acting here. I really enjoy the atmosphere and just it's for me it was so you want to believe that he is being, you know, tormented by this guy who thinks that he stole his book, and like he seems so honest and earnest about it, like he feels like this is really happening and it's just him battling with himself essentially, but he's so divided that he thinks that this other side of him is like a real like person living and breathing that's not him. And so I found myself believing it, like, but well, more so the first time since I knew what happened at the second watch, but I still give it about a 3. And I think it would have been definitely stronger too the first time.
Yeah.
But
I just texted you just now the alternate ending to Secret Window.
Oh, sweet.
You should put it in the description too so other people can see it. Because I want you to see it too.
Yeah.
But just so you can see what I'm talking about. You still get the stupid corn bite at the end after you see the bodies. But I just think it's really cool to see the bodies so you have that knowledge of, they're really dead. So
yeah.
I just didn't want to forget it. That's why I usually don't through my phone.
No,
thing.
no worries.
I just wanted to let you know I'm texting you this right now so you can actually check it out.
Yeah, I want to see that because I've always watched it on the DVD that I have. I've never seen like the alternate. So and it's weird that I didn't know that I never saw that it had an alternate because I have like the Steven. Oh, can't even see it.
Yeah.
It's a 6-film collection. It's got like Bag of Bones, Christine, Secret Window, Sleepwalkers, Stand By Me, all on one case. So, but yeah, I'll definitely check it out. Thank you guys so much for coming on. It was a blast having you guys on. Before we go, what's next for you guys?
Give me 1 second.
No
There's
worries.
a big spider.
There's a big ass spider. Did I get it?
I hope
Ha!
so.
He's dead.
Okay.
Sorry, dude. Like the thing was like this big, man. Yeah, for me, what's next for Sledgehammer Horror? We have I don't know when this is going to be airing, but do we have a release date on when this episode's going live yet or no?
It should be this Wednesday. So
cool. Well, if it's this Wednesday, then I'll tell you guys this next week. Sorry, I got to pull my phone out again so I can actually
no
tell
worries.
you. So if this premieres on Wednesday, the 26th, coming out next week, we have our My First Horror Movie episode, which is number 344 with Jonathan Cherry, who's like the long-haired stoner dude from Final Destination 2 that drives the badass car.
Nice.
Wednesday with CP, a buddy of mine, Will Screedia, and on Friday will be our Didn't See That Coming on what movie we were just talking about, The Sixth Sense.
Oh,
that'll be our Didn't See That Coming on The Sixth Sense.
Nice.
And right after that, this coming up week, on Sunday, we're doing our top 10 movies that we want to have a sequel or prequel for.
Yeah.
And on Monday, which is Halloween, we will be going live for the first time to do our Halloween Ends review and where it ranks in the franchise for us. So, her being a huge Halloween fan.
It's my favorite franchise.
Me, it's in my top 20, maybe.
Okay.
I like Halloween enough. I'm just not a gigantic fan, but
yeah,
I feel like this movie is more divisive than any other horror movie I can remember in recent memory. Maybe the newest Scream movie. But I just feel like no matter what side of the aisle you're on, you're overselling. Like if you're on the aisle that, wow, Halloween Ends is really, really, really good. No, it isn't. Don't do that. If you're on the side, wow, this is the worst movie I've ever seen in my entire life. No, it isn't.
Yeah.
Like it's a meh. It's okay. But we'll get more in depth about that on our channel on Monday night on Halloween night. So I don't want to give away too much, but I just don't understand why people have to attack because of their opinion on a movie.
Really? The person that gives me shit every day of my life
because
I like Halloween.
Listen, I give you shit because you think Michael's better than Jason.
I do.
But I do it with love. I'm not an asshole.
I don't feel the love.
I'm sorry. I'm a huge Jason 100%.
I'm just saying. Hey, how many times, Josh, have you seen
every time?
How many times, Josh, have you seen Busta Rhymes whoop Jason's ass with some karate?
Never.
How many times have you seen him whoop Michael Myers' ass with some karate?
Once, because I didn't want to watch it.
In my opinion,
hope they make a fucking Jason film and Busta Rhymes is there. I would be like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna call the producers and be like, I need this.
He's gonna come in and instead of saying trick or treat, motherfucker, he's gonna come in and be like, bring your life jacket, motherfucker, and just start whooping Jason's ass. Look at the screen and be like, for you, Ken.
I'm petitioning.
Then go back.
I'm petitioning
whooping Jason's ass.
I'm petitioning.
Come on, Mama's
boy. Happening.
You're gonna have a writing credit in the film. Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like I said, Halloween Ends. It's divisive. Horror films are supposed to be that way. If look, man, this is something I will say. If there was a certain formula to writing a horror movie to making it a perfect movie, everybody would have had it, and we'd have so many movies that everybody just thought was perfect.
Yeah.
Respect the art, man. If it's not for you, somebody digs it. Yeah. So don't be an asshole.
Yeah,
if you
There's
don't
always
like
gonna
it,
be people that love it, and there's always gonna be people that hate it. So
right? And if
it's
you
just-
do love it, don't shit on people that don't. Like, it's okay.
Yeah.
If we all felt the same way,
this would be boring.
our YouTube channels wouldn't
Yeah.
exist.
yeah,
We'd all
Lives
have the
would be
same
boring.
opinions. Yeah, everything would be boring as hell, man. I love the fact there's people that absolutely love it. I love the fact there's people that absolutely hate it.
yeah,
I'm right in the middle, man. It's meh. There's good about it. There's bad about it.
yeah.
When
I
there's
mean,
good, like it ends. There's bad, like Michael's in it. But I mean, like, it's still, like, it's a movie.
it's a movie. And you don't want just rinse, cycle, repeat like of these
Right.
franchises. That's what grows stale. But some people just that's all they want. They just
Yeah,
want
and
like
when they try something new, people get so mad about it.
Just ask Halloween 3, Season of the Witch.
yeah.
yeah.
You know.
And
And let's
that
say
was a
this.
good
Did-
that was a
did you
great
read?
movie.
Did you read about the alternate ending of Halloween Ends?
No.
No cap.
Oh, geez. Oh my gosh. They're not bringing that.
I'm not kidding right now. This is totally true. David Gordon Green came out and released a statement. You guys can find this online. That in the original draft of it, the movie was going to end at the Silver Shamrock Factory, and the Silver Shamrock Factory was going to be kicking out, pumpkin and ghoul and skeleton masks, and then Michael Myers masks were going to start spitting out. Like,
Oh,
that was part of the story the whole time. I hated that idea.
Huh.
And look, I love Halloween 3 Season of the Witch.
Yeah, but
I
that
love
would've
it.
only been for them, like,
Right.
For the the
Here's
people
two reasons why I don't like it, or three really, because you're right. It's fan service. That's
Absolutely.
all it is fan service. That's one reason. The second reason, when they put the mask on, you die. You don't turn into a monster. You die. And three, Michael's had his mask taken off many, many, many times, and he's still evil when the mask comes off.
Mhm.
It's not like the mask comes off and he's like, it's not like Jim Carrey's the mask. Where you take the mask off and he's good. You know what I mean? So I mean,
Right.
there's just so many holes that I'm glad they went in a different direction than that,
I
because it
think
would
that-
not have made any sense at all had they done that.
I think people would have had a more negative effect with that.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Because it doesn't make sense.
Right.
At least the ending they gave us, the ending made sense.
Mhm.
I think Halloween Ends would have been a better film if Corey would have been involved since Halloween 2018. If we could have given Corey a bigger story, I would have loved it. But that's a story for another day, man. Right now we're talking
I
about
was gonna say,
why'd you put on the hat? I don't know. Let's go back to Secret Window.
but yeah, no, for sure. I'm kind of like I haven't shared my thoughts on it yet either. I went and saw it like I think last weekend, or it was around last weekend or so, or Monday. And I was there was things I liked about it, and there was things that I was like, eh.
Mhm.
But I mean, I really enjoyed the
Perfect
opening
time,
to it. But
Best part of the movie.
yeah.
Legit, the best part of the movie is the opening. Like I think the opening, like I got when we seen the opening,
Like,
I was so excited. I was like, oh my god, this is gonna kick ass, man.
yeah, because
I thought that they were gonna continue, like Halloween Ends. Listen, Halloween could have definitely ended for Michael and Laurie, but I thought that they could have. I can't. People haven't seen it yet. People haven't seen it, so I can't get spoilery. That's not who we don't spoil things until it's on physical media, unless we're doing a live on it, which we'll be doing on Halloween night. But
definitely check it out.
man, I just I wish that they would have gone a different direction a couple ways, but
yeah.
Yeah.
It is
it's
what
not
it
the
is.
biggest turn I've ever seen. It's not even the worst film in the Halloween franchise, man. Have you guys seen Halloween 6? That movie's bunk, and you're gonna bitch about Halloween Ends? Come on now.
For
Yeah,
sure. Well, thank you guys again so much. We'll have links to all of Sledgehammer Horror and all their content below, as well as the alternative ending to the Secret Window. And I hope we can do this again sometime. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Like working with you guys. I hope you guys have a killer rest of your night, and a great week. And for you fans out there, keep killing it out there, my friends, and just remember, don't get caught.
Game over.